So you want me to begin?
Yes, and the
Okay,
recording it started, so you can introduce yourself and let's begin.
sounds good. So I'm Donna. I'm a certified recovery peer specialist. I have 9 years in sobriety this month. So it's yeah, thank you. It's an amazing job. I love doing it. To help others. There's many out there struggling. And so Karina shared a little bit. So if you could just share what you're going to be doing over there, so then I know where to go on this training.
Great. So this will be a warm line for artists in Manatee and Sarasota County who, if they call in and they identify as an artist, the next day or in the very near future, we'll put them in contact. We'll put one of the clients in contact with one of our volunteers that have offered to be peer-to-peer specialists who work in their field, that understand that, hopefully as it grows, have the same position they do, whether it's a director or administrator, performer, any of those things, and really kind of just offer them kind of some bridge mentorship and sponsorship to be able to get through it. I mean, we'll have to provide them resources because many of them will live in other cities, but it's just really to provide them with somebody that can walk them through, just that first 14 days. How do you go from realizing you need help to really getting on it? If it lasts for longer, awesome, that's fantastic. But our goal is really just to provide people that are struggling a number to be able to call and someone to be able to offer them some specific work that they feel like they don't have to explain our whole industry. They don't have to explain what the things are, someone that knows it. I have a lot of friends who are lawyers who claimed the lawyer warm line saved their life because they couldn't go to their partners, they couldn't go to their boss, but they could talk to another lawyer, and that was huge. And so we want to provide the same thing for artists.
That's awesome. And whoever's doing that, they're welcome to reach out to me. I can lead them into more trainings as far as peer support, peer to peer, because there's many out there, and it's, we always can learn.
Yeah, and so everyone that's signed up to do it is a person in long-term recovery and someone that has done some sponsorship themselves. So I think this is just more about, what's the do's and don'ts, like you said, what's helpful, what's best practices when you're on the phone with someone that you don't know, walking them through, those first several days that feel really touch and go for the person.
Definitely. So, I'll go ahead and this is the roles of a peer specialist. The objective is to define peer support, what it is not, identify common roles of peer support, recognize potential opportunities and challenges, and then recognizing the stages of change. And that's important. We'll go on to that, but and then we can ask questions there. Let's see. A person who provides education, support, and coaching to help individuals regain or develop skills to live, work, and live successfully in the community. Peers support people in identifying their goals, hopes, dreams, and creating a roadmap for getting there. And then the fundamental skills of peers is listening, validating, mentoring, advocating, and empathizing. And then some of the misconceptions about a peer: we're not mini mental health counselors. One of the primary uses for a peer worker is get them and cover information about individuals receiving services to bring them back to the rest of the team. These are just misconceptions. Peer workers should engage in conversations about tricky topics such as suicide medication. So do not do that. And then there are no boundaries in peer work. And then anti-psychiatry is really common in the peer movement, and many peer workers are likely to fail individuals who receive services to get off their meds or go against what their treatment providers want them to do. Those are things we never do, because they'll get into asking us about going off their meds and stuff, and I'll always refer them to a mental health or So what peer support includes, it's learning, mutual trust, respecting others' differences, respect the confidentiality of those they serve, mutual trust, being building that rapport with somebody. That's the most important. They can trust us. What peer support does not include, there is offering medical advice, trying to be a case manager, trying to provide therapy, being available 24 hours a day, treating the consumer like a child. I'll go back to the being available 24 hours a day. We want to be there for peer support, but not as a friend. So if you have 24-hour a day peers, that's amazing, but not giving them your personal number so they're able to contact. I always connect them with community partners and sponsors and those that are there of support. National practice guidelines for peer supporters. Peer supporters are hopeful. Peer supporters are open-minded. Peer supporters are empathetic, and we're respectful. Peer support is equally shared power, so that we're not overpowering the person that we know more, just learning from each other. Peer support is strength focused, calling out their strengths. And I can also send over a sheet that they give us regarding their strength based. So peer support is transparent and peer support is person driven. Potential challenges for the peer role are the expectations being too high or too low. Continue to engage in appropriate training, dual roles, friend and professional. And possible solutions to challenges: use positive facilitator skills with everyone, practice good listening skills, be aware of body language, remain respectful, calm, and constructive, have team meetings to discuss challenges with others, and have mentors in the agency. And, it's so important to have that mentor or that team meetings where you all can bounce off your ideas from one another on a specific person that calls, what would you do in this situation, and learning from each other there. Now, this is the 5 stages of change that I talked about at the beginning. And this is really important, because you'll get the pre-contemplation where they're not even acknowledging that they have an issue, not yet acknowledging. And then contemplation is they're acknowledging, but they're not ready or willing to change that at that time. Lack of confidence is really, when we have somebody in contemplation, it's definitely easier for us to move into the next stage. But pre-contemplation, I always say, at least they're calling you. So that's, important. Preparation, determination, getting ready to change. And then action is changing the behavior. So if you're working with artists, here they are, they're doing the action work at your facility or whatever. And then maintenance, maintaining the behavioral change with, many of us in long-term recovery. And then in this module, we define what peer support is, identifying the roles of a peer worker, recognizing the potential challenges of peer work, and the stages of change. Now on this, I gave some of the Peer Coalition is a coalition you could sign up for, and it will give you a lot of trainings for free. And then Florida Certification Board is where we get our peer certification through. And that's a state of Florida certification. SAMHSA is another agency, in FADA. They do amazing trainings. Let's see, I think that's the end. So then I just want to answer some questions, and then I'll give a little about I had wrote, or they had wrote. So anybody have any questions?
So I do, I think artists especially are very empathetic, and
Mhm.
they're very, they want to be there for other people. What's a reasonable amount of peer support to give to someone? I mean, do you try to do not more than 1 hour every other day? Or, I want to make sure people don't get taken advantage of, and their phone is ringing 24 hours a day. So what's recommended in terms of boundaries that are set?
Okay, so usually what we do is we like to connect with somebody weekly. If they're really into some hardcore, feelings, we'll go twice a week. Sometimes we'll take them to a meeting and get them connected. Our most important thing for them to get somebody of support that they connect. So we're not their primary, and then if I see they might need some mental health counseling or something like that, that's whenever I refer them. Because like you said, the boundaries, you have to put that in place. If the person works from 7 to 3, I don't answer at 3:30.
So once a week is considered solid continual peer support, pushing them towards connecting more to their individual community. Great.
Yes.
I think, and here's a little bit, maybe will make sense. You guys are doing a warm line. It's a little bit different than a peer. It's just having a peer to kind of explain her role, because it's going to be a little bit different. I think the main goal of this is to educate when you're on the other side of the line. How can you help somebody to get them to the proper help? So it's kind of like a warm line, being there, done that. I just want to make sure that you have the support you need for right now. And then eventually, if they need referrals in the community or whatever the case scenario is, to get there. I think the whole purpose of this training is to give a little bit kind of education, what we should talk about, what we should not talk about, boundary lines, and when it's time to pass on to a higher level of care. But everybody has you guys being there, know how hard it is, know how to treat people with respect. Listening is one a big thing, right? They wanted somebody to listen and be there for them and help to go through that day. And that's, I believe, what this position will be about. Correct, Sean?
And just Sheila, just the basics of it is that if there's an artist who is struggling, this number will be available to them, right? So they call. We're working with Lightshare, which is a fantastic organization. So if they need immediate support, they're suicidal, they're not going to make it through the evening, we'll put them through to professionals who can help to guide them through that. If it's just someone who's looking for help, or someone who's looking to learn more, or someone who is struggling and they identify as an artist, what'll happen is that they'll give their name and number to Lightshare. Lightshare will contact me. I will then pass on their information to our group of peer supporters, which you are one of. And then you reach out to the person to say, I heard that you called the number and that you're interested in talking to someone who's a performing artist or a director or an administrator, to just provide some support in the short term going forward. And so it really provides them peer-to-peer support. And that's why we call it a warm line. It's not a hotline. These aren't people that are urgently needing support. And if they do need that, we'll provide that for them. But that's not you and I. This is more, I learned about this because I have so many lawyer friends, and then I learned that there's airline pilots and doctors and nurses also have that. If you are struggling and you want to talk to someone in your industry, you call this, and then somebody in your industry calls you and says, I've been there before. I know where you're at. Let me just let you know what's possible. So it really provides them also some anonymity if they don't want to talk to somebody in their office. They don't want to talk to somebody in their town if they work in a small town. But it also provides somebody in their industry that understands the idiosyncratic ways that any industry works, right? That how airline pilots work or how nurses work. And so for us, I think it's just whether it's administrator or a performing artist or anything like that, it provides them someone to talk to. And our hope is that this is a bridge for them to be able to then get either into the rooms, if that works for them, to be able to get involved with other people who do it. But at least for me, at the very beginning, I was any excuse to not get sober, I took, right? And if I couldn't find anybody that could help me, great. And so this would really just provide that sample of like, there's somebody there, there's somebody calling once a week, there's someone encouraging you, there's someone providing resources, and you don't have to go to your boss to be able to ask for help, because even regardless of who your boss is, nobody wants to go to their boss because they're terrified of what it is. So we're just trying to provide some peer-to-peer support, and that's why I'm curious about boundaries, because if you're calling once a week, after 3 weeks, you may be done. You may have really provided them what they need. They may be going to meetings. They may be doing other things. Or maybe it takes 5 weeks, but
and encourage them to find a sponsor on the community they live, because once
that's right,
you're there for that first call, right? I'm embarrassed, I don't know where to call, so I'm calling you. You know exactly how crazy it is to be an artist. I can relate to you. But the ultimate goal is to connect them to the community, connect them to the meetings where they can find a sponsor that will take that from you. So now you have a sponsor that you can reach whenever you want to reach to.
Yeah.
So we're not their daily support. We're not the person keeping them sober, but at 3 a.m, you call a 1-800 number because you're freaking out. And then, the next day somebody calls you back and says like, great, let's just, and maybe that first call is an hour, just to be like, I've been there. I know what it is. I know what it is to call the 1-800 number and then the next day act like I didn't. I understand all of those things that are a part of it, but just know that I've been there before, and let's talk about what it is that you need.